Hey everybody, Metal Shop Steve back here. Hopefully you enjoyed my last video. That was the interview. Like to have a couple more of those interviews coming out. Actually, I like to be doing interviews all the time. I love talking to the folks who make the music that I love. So, speaking of things that I love and hopefully interviews in the future, I have another album review, another new album. This one is a band that just kind of came across my radar out of nowhere recently, and the band is Vintersea, and they are a Portland, Oregon-based, we'll call them melodic death metal slash a little bit of progressive metal in there. Really kind of a unique sound, and that's what grabbed me about it. So they have a new album that came out, I believe in September, and it's called Illuminated, and it's a pretty short album, but it packs a lot of punch. So again, I thought I would talk about this. First of all, a little bit about the band. They're fronted by a woman named Avienne, and her vocal style is, if you could imagine, kind of, let's say, an ethereal, airy, beautiful, mysterious vocal, but also probably some of the best growling and screaming I've ever heard. So in terms of the bands that have that growling, screaming element and beautiful vocals, I would say for me that this band, Vintersea, is it's right up there with the best of them. So I'll say that first out. The rest of the band is very tight, very technical, which is where, for me, the progressive sound kind of comes into it. Very accomplished with their instruments. So you hear that technical bit throughout the music, but then when they crank it up and just start pounding and blasting away, it's just so aggressive, so loud, so relentless, in your face. It's just a really nice mix. And you know me, I've said it before, although maybe this is changing a little bit. I'm not generally a death metal guy, so a band has to have another element in there for me to make it kind of stand out in the whole death metal group. And I've mentioned a couple of those. I've talked about a couple of those bands already that have that for me. So here's another one. And a couple of songs on here are a little bit lengthy, again, leaning a little bit more toward that melodic, progressive vibe, as opposed to just a quick-hitting, nasty, thrashy death metal. So again, this is a short album, 6 songs. So I'm just going to go ahead and kind of talk down through them with the notes that I've gathered here so far. I'm sure that things will deepen for me a little bit more as I listen to this album more. But here we go. So the lead-off track, Spawn Awakening. And again, I love when an album starts out with a bang, and this one certainly does. It starts out with Avienne's scream. It is just so... it's like a long, emotional, kick it off, here we are sort of moment for this album. But then the song kind of lapses into this beautiful, soft, earthy type of sound. And kind of as I like with this, again, this is that whole other layer to the bands that I really like, the death metal bands that I really like. After that kind of quiet, soft beginning to the song, it goes bang, and it kicks right in, and it's just brutal and relentless, and it just kind of barrels forward this freight train until it hits this abrupt end right at the stop, right at the end of the song. It's just done, and I love it. Great song, great way to open the album. Really, really, nice introduction to this band. For this album. The next song up, Old Ones, I'll start out by saying that if you check out YouTube, and I'm going to leave some links below, there is a music video for the song Old Ones. What a beautiful video, very artistic. Avienne is, she's a very beautiful woman, and she's got the vocals to match, but this song, you're not getting nearly as much of those soft, beautiful vocals. This is really kind of a hit you over the head the whole way type of song, which is interesting. I like that. It's a contrast between the beautiful visuals of this song, along with the just hard-hitting, pounding, thrashing, blistering music that goes along with it. So that's kind of a nice way to segue into the rest of the album. Next up is the title track, Illuminated, and this one is dark. It's got a nice clean intro. Well, I'll say clean intro because the music, the instruments, and I'll go ahead and give a quick shout out here. Riley Nix, Jorma Spaziano, guitars, Carl Winery, bass, and finally Jeremy Spencer, drums. So make sure I give those guys a shout out here as well. So they are just kind of grinding away, thrashing away here at the beginning of the song, while there's this it's such a contrast of this beautiful, clean vocal over top of that, that it's really got maybe like a gothy, progressive vibe to this as well. And it really just takes off at the end. It kind of, the vocals soar, and then it hits back in with that relentless screaming, growling. Really great. In fact, this one is, if I had to pick, and I usually do, this is my favorite track on the album, Illuminated, the third track on here. As soon as I heard it, it grabbed me, and that's where we go with that one. Next up, Crack of Light. And this one, kind of again, by now you should have a pretty good idea of what they sound like. And this one gives you a little bit of an extra layer there toward the end. They throw in this jazzy saxophone sounding bit toward the end with a little bit of chanting over it. And one of the things I like here is that they're not afraid to experiment, to throw in some, what almost sounds to me like world styles here in the music. And I don't know if that comes from their background or just their interest, but little bits of world styles here and there. And this one has the chanting again, this jazzy saxophone, and then it just breaks right from that into this wild, growling, fast, furious finish to this song. From there, the next song up, and I will say, back to Crack of Light for a minute, that would be my second favorite song on this album. Just really, really, really great. Love it a lot. Fiery Tongue, next up, and this one has kind of that operatic beginning, kind of the operatic vocals a little bit goth sounding, kind of that goth metal you've heard through Nightwish or one of those kind of bands. That's what it sounds like at the beginning, right before it kicks in with this blitz of, again, really fast, aggressive, loud, relentless, hammering metal. Kind of interesting vocals for me here. Somewhere in here, there's a little bit of a break toward the end, and the vocals almost take it to this, I don't know, Middle Eastern, if you hear it, you'll know what I'm talking about, but it's kind of got this little bit of flavor in there. One thing that I forgot, again, going back to the last song, and I mentioned this kind of world, little bits and pieces here. There's almost, at the end of Crack of Light, in the very progressive sounding ending, there's almost a flamenco Spanish guitar type of sound in there that I'm picking up. So again, a lot of different really interesting styles mixed into this album, but at the same time, it is not lacking for anything that is fast, loud, aggressive, along with these beautiful vocals, these tormented, growling, screaming vocals as well. Last track, again, it's just kind of, puts together what they do, Befallen. So overall, really fantastic album. I love it. I don't know too much about this band otherwise. I've looked around a little bit. But again, hopefully I'd like to do an interview here to talk a little bit more with the band about this, so we'll see how that goes coming up. But again, check it out. The album is called Illuminated, and the band is Vintersea with a V, Vintersea, right out of the Pacific Northwest, Portland, Oregon. And again, if you like death metal, melodic metal, progressive, any of that, this is going to be an album that you like. Highly recommended. I think it Might be one of the better albums of that whole genre, that whole sound right now. So definitely check it out. That's all I've got on this one. Thank you very much for coming by again, and I will see you soon.